Hi everyone, this is my mandatory reporting video for the state of New Hampshire. So here in the state of New Hampshire, there is a 24-hour reporting window. So as a healthcare professional, if I suspect abuse or neglect, within 24 hours it needs to be reported to the proper agency. In here in the state of New Hampshire, it is the Division of Children, Youth, and Families for a suspected child abuse or neglect, and for adult and elder abuse and neglect, it is the Bureau of Adult and Elderly Services. So upon any suspect of abuse, either one of those divisions need to be called. So basically what happens is if there's a suspect of child abuse or neglect, DCYF has a central intake office that is called. So those are manned. The phones there are manned by social workers. So what they do is they take the information down, and then that phone call is immediately logged into the system. So as you're talking to them, they're typing, and it goes immediately to the district that is where the abuse is taking place, or suspected abuse is taking place. And what they do is they send out an assessment worker either the same day or the very next morning. They have 24 hours to be able to investigate a claim of abuse or neglect. The state of New Hampshire reports to the Bureau of Adult and Elderly Services, and so here that is a little bit different in regards to reporting on a child. On a child, there is a lot more in-depth information that is asked. The intake phone call takes quite a while, can take anywhere, I've had them take anywhere between 15 minutes to half an hour, depending on what is being reported and what information is being asked. Names, addresses, phone numbers if you have them, immediate family members that are in the area, that type of thing is what they're looking for, all of that information, as well as what has happened, what the situation is that's being reported. For the mandatory reporting for elder abuse and neglect, it's quite different. It's like a 3-second phone call where you talk to somebody and say, okay, I have a feeling that so and so is being neglected or abused by their daughter. This is where they live, and reports that are made to both of these divisions can be made anonymously. I've made multiple phone calls in regards to child abuse and neglect at my previous job, which was being a school counselor. I think I made probably 2 to 3 reports a week to DCYF, and it was one of those where the process had to be done through the central intake office in Concord to have the district office immediately find out about the phone call, but I also had to per the school policy, I had to discuss it with my principal, and I had to also let the superintendent's office know as well. This did not stop me from reporting because I have to report, but that was their policy to make sure that everybody's on the same page if we ever have to go to court, that we all know what was going on at that particular time. Working at the hospital, I've made a few calls to BEAS in regards to some abuse and neglect. And like I said, that process is quite different. I didn't find it as in-depth as the child abuse reporting. They do, however, have the same turnover. They have to respond within 24 hours to a claim that's been reported. I have found that sometimes that does not happen. Sometimes I've seen a report go unanswered for about 72 hours. And that is due to the total lack of staffing. I haven't had to call BAS for a while, so I don't know if anything has changed in that aspect, but it's definitely not as, I don't know if intense is the right word. It's definitely not as intense as calling on for a child. It's definitely quite different. I was basically asked when I called BEAS that it was just, the person who is the victim, who is the alleged abuser, where they live, and if I have any contact information from them, and then they will send a worker out. The one thing that I did notice with BAS is that I would get a follow-up phone call afterwards. That does not happen with DCYF. I would get a letter stating whether the case was unfounded or not. And then there were, more often or not, I've had several cases that have resulted in removal of children from the home, and have worked very closely with DCYF in regards to that, to making sure the children are safe in the school environment. And and where I'm at now, working very closly with DCYF. And with the moms who have open cases within the system. So at my particular facility, which is a rehabilitation facility, which is residential for pregnant and parenting moms, we have a couple of cases that have DCYF involvement. So as a mandatory reporter, I have to, if I have a resident that is going to leave with their child, I have to immediately call the police, and then I have to call DCYF and let them know that they are trying to leave with their child. And this can be tricky sometimes depending on what part of the case that they're in. So if it's just an assessment process and there is no court order, DCYF we cannot legally hold them there with their child. We do have to notify DCYF that they're leaving. We do not call the police at that point. But we do let DCYF know where they're leaving, know that they're leaving, and if we know where they're going, to tell them where they're going so that they can meet up with them at some point. If it is a child that does not, that has an open case with DCYF, that has gone through a dispositional hearing, the parent has been found guilty of neglect or abuse, and they decide to leave with their child, we have to call DCYF immediately and call the police. We are not allowed to let them leave with their child because the safety of the child is in danger. And that is because we have a court order in hand saying that they have to be at the facility. They cannot be unsupervised with their child, because at our facility we do supervise these parents. We have parent aides that work along with DCYF for our organization to supervise these parents and their visits. So it's very important that if they decide to leave, that we make that phone call immediately to ensure the safety of the child, as well as the resident. We don't want the resident to take off and not have a place to go. So if they decide to discharge, we try to intervene as much as possible and try to get them into a safe place if they decide to leave our facility. So yeah, that is mandatory reporting for the state of New Hampshire. It's pretty similar to all of the other videos that I have watched in regards to it. We are required, like I said, to report within 24 hours. As a healthcare professional, I am at risk of losing my license if I do not report. And it is a misdemeanor crime for not reporting, because there could be severe repercussions of that. I've always been told that to trust your gut. It's better to report than not report, because if you don't report and something is going on, then lives could be at stake. So that's the state of New Hampshire. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I had looked up. I was going off paper and lost my papers, so I'm trying to go from memory here. But other than that, like I said, it's pretty similar. I think they're all pretty similar in regards to how they do their reporting and the time frame. So that's a good thing to know, that kind of across the board, everybody's on the same page. So thank you very much.